Hello and welcome back to the port. I'm the Gaffer Major and this is Admiralty Reports. Admiralty Reports is your gameplay submissions with my commentary, and today we have a submission from YTBrandonABC. Now he is playing in the Tier 4 Russian tech tree destroyer Podvoisky. This is a Tier 3 and 4 game of domination on the newish map, I guess you could say, Solomon Islands. Which is quite an interesting map. It's quite pretty, I have to confess, and I kind of wish we had it at higher tiers, but unfortunately it's obviously a bit small, so you only really get to see it down at tier 4 really. Now on the enemy team there's a Matsuki, a Kuma, a Truin, a Phoenix, an Emerald, a Kaiser, a Wyoming, a New York and a Langley. So it is a carry game. On the friendly team we have Brandon Podvoisky, a Kuma, a Karshur, a Phoenix, an Emily Batin, an Azuchi, a Wyoming, a Koenig and a Langley. Now you will have to bear with my pronunciations on those ships' names because I don't play this tier that often, so I don't really get to read out those ships' names that often either. So he spawned on the central right, I guess you could say, and he's made a move into the alpha objective. Using the dive bombers from the Langley, he's going to get some nice spotting about any potential threats that might be moving into this. And it looks like the French cruiser, the Truin, seems to be making a move over into this objective. Now, as it is a tier 3 and 4 game, it is going to be a little bit of seal clubbing, I guess you could say. But then again, it seems to be that seal clubbing seems to happen at all tiers these days. So it's just really just down to a matter of how things go. So while we're letting the game develop, we'll have a little bit of a talk about the Russian destroyers and maybe the Podvoisky itself. So regarding the Podvoisky, as per most Russian ships in the game, the Podvoisky never existed, at least not in steel, maybe on paper. Apparently she is one of the draft designs for the first destroyer flotilla leaders after the formation of the Soviet Union. Unlike destroyers which were being built during the pre-revolution period, this ship had greater dimensions, which would make sense, and also she has a higher speed and more powerful artillery. Apart from that, she also carried quite large caliber torpedoes. Now when it comes to the Podvoisky in game, she's an interesting one. Potentially she's quite strong in comparison to the tech tree destroyers that come after her, I'd say, mostly because of her tier, but also she does have a couple of tricks up her sleeves, I guess you could say. Some of the pros regarding the Podvoisky is, yeah, she's quite fast for the tier. She's got quite long gun range following the updates to the Russian destroyers in October 2020. Her HE shells, they do a decent amount of damage and do have quite a good fire chance in comparison. Also, because of that good gun size caliber, that means her AP can penetrate a little bit more, and she does have quite high AP shell damage. Now with the Podvoisky, what's quite interesting with her is that all the turrets do actually 360, which means that usually if you're kiting from side to side, those turrets are going to be able to keep up with you, because you're not waiting for half your turrets to rotate the long way around. Working over New York, which is thankfully spotted by a friendly cruiser from the protection of our smoke screen, and there she goes. Managed to do 13,000 damage to get 2 fires there. Now, the guns do have quite good firing angles, so obviously that means you can take advantage of those 360-degree turrets on the Podvoisky quite well. Now, brace yourself for the downsides of the Podvoisky. She has very poor detectability by sea. She has a very slow rate of fire, so even though her guns can hit hard as an alpha, overall the DPM isn't that amazing. Furthermore, the turrets traverse very slowly, so obviously this means that the advantage of the 360-degree turrets at this tier is actually quite useful. However, this is an issue which then becomes more of an issue at the tier 5 Genevi and the tier 6 Minsk, where their turrets don't 360, and you're still stuck with that slow turret traverse. So sometimes certain command skills, you'll see in one here is the twist and track, or what I call the RDF, can be helpful because that means you can obviously have a better understanding which way to point your turrets as to where the nearest enemy is. Now, one of the large downsides of the Russian destroyers is their very short torpedo range. It's only once you get the torpedo module upgrade on the Tier 7 Tashkent do you seem to start getting torpedo ranges which are reasonable. From Podvoisky through the Gleaves and the Minsk, and at your starting off on the Tashkent, you're stuck with torpedoes which only have 4 kilometers range. Now, they are fast, however, only 4 kilometers range. If you turn broadside onto something at 4 kilometers range or less, it's pretty obvious what you're doing. Now, these destroyers do have quite a large turning circle and sometimes can have quite a slow rudder shift, so that's a bit of a downside with these. It's like they're very much reliant on their guns, but their maneuverability in order to dodge incoming fire can be a little bit hindered. Yes, they do have a good speed, but speed's only going to save you so much. Once the enemy learn how to lead the target sufficiently for your speed, your ability to dodge that fire is going to be quite poor. Now, as we've alluded to, these destroyers were minorly reworked in October 2020. And for example, talking about the Podvoisky, what did they change? Well, they improved her gun range, which is quite nice, I guess you could say. So it does mean you can stand off a bit more from the enemy targets, so you don't have to get so close, trying to use distance in order to avoid that incoming fire. Now, they did also improve the rudder shift, but however the rudder shift is still pretty for the tier. I mean, they've just brought you more in line. They decreased the chances of your steering gears and your engine being incapacitated, though we don't know exactly how much they really changed this by, and as you're seeing, you're still going to end up with your engines and other things getting knocked out. Now, they did improve the speed of the torpedoes, to obviously try and make it easier to torpedo something at point blank range, which is trying to reward you for getting to point blank range, but that's not really what you want to be doing with a Russian destroyer. They are very much like gunboats, and as you've seen so far, Brandon's really only been working over things with his guns quite nicely. Now, they also improved the duration of the damage control party on the Russian destroyers, just to improve their overall survivability, I guess you could say. So, here we are, tangling ourselves up with a Matsuki, torpedoes to our front, but looks like we should be clear of those. And at the moment, we're doing almost what a Podvoisky should be doing, getting right into the thick of it. Now, down at this tier, the reason why the Podvoisky can be quite strong is because most of the cruisers are quite lightly armoured, which means you can really take advantage of those armour-piercing shells against the broadsides of the light cruisers. This is something that you start to struggle with at the higher tiers, because obviously trying to get in close can be a little bit awkward. Furthermore, you start coming up against cruisers which are better to countering destroyers, I guess you could say. At tier 6, you're starting to encounter some of the radar cruisers, and also the rates of fires and things like that start to improve. So it means if you do get spotted, you're going to get punished quite hard, and also sonar ranges start to increase. Here, just using a bit of AP on the belt line, or at the upper belt of the wiring, simply because it's loaded, but switching to high explosives after doing so. So, as always, down in the description will be the command build and the modules used, although as it's a tier 4, modules wise isn't that exciting. You only get the one slot, and in this case it's aiming systems. Why not? When it comes to the commander, he's using Trubetskoy, rank 12, legendary 1. Skills, Observant Rage, I should say, which improves your detectability of torpedoes, your rate of fire, but at the cost of rudder shift. So it's quite an interesting one. It's basically making you a better gunboat at the same time making you a worse gunboat because of your rudder shift. For the other traits, he's using Look at Me Now, Twist and Track, Smoke on the Water, and Unstoppable. Unstoppable always a key skill to take if you're going to be running a gunboat. Here, picking out the Citadel and the Kuma very nicely. Should be able to wrap her up with this volley. Well, not quite. Going to need a couple more Citadels, but we're already up to 7 Citadels quite nicely. Now she's started to angle, we're getting mostly bounces. However, we now notice the Phoenix, which is offering us a broadside. And then we have a Kaiser, which has decided he doesn't want to play this game anymore, he wants to leave this map. Meanwhile, we can go back to his command build and his inspirations. Now, he's taken Bay, which is at mastery level 16, which is quite nice. But he's gone for this, I think, I'm going to be honest, Brandon, it's a bit of an odd choice. I can see what you're trying to do. but I'm not sure it's the right thing to do. He's taken Gleaves at Mastery 11 to improve the torpedo range, which, wow, you've only got 4 kilometer torpedo range. I'm not really sure it's going to improve it that much, but each to your own, and if it works, it works. I ain't going to complain. It just seems like a very strange build. So let's see what the situation is like. Well, we've got 4 minutes and 40 left to the game. We're up to 71,000 damage from a couple of kills here and there. That Phoenix looks very opportunistic, but we do have this Kaiser, which is still trying to vacate the map, I believe. So whether we can mop up on the Phoenix. Phoenix is in range. I mean, it's quite tempting, but looks like it's going to be going for the Kaiser. It's going to be interesting to see what his torpedo range is. We got to 5.9 there, and they're still not in range. 5.5, 5.4. Be interesting to see how much he's improved his torpedo range by. Right, the Phoenix is now gone. That just leaves the Langley, which is all the way in the back top right corner. Right, the Kaiser's definitely inside torpedo range now. And looks like she's an AFK player, unfortunately. So loose torpedoes and probably just watch, I think. Or you can shoot, but yeah, you are detected, because obviously the detectability on these Russian destroyers is absolutely horrendous. So, in fact, the Russian destroyers are some of the poorest performing destroyers in the game. I mean, they can be quite good at those kind of moments where they can pick out a single target, and if they get their torpedoes to hit, the torpedoes will hit hard and fast, but apart from that, they aren't that amazing, I guess you could say, in comparison to, say, some of the alternative destroyer tech trees. If you want to go for more of a gunboat build, sometimes you might be better off going with the Americans or the French, because they give you guns, but they also have some reasonable torpedoes in regards to range and stuff like that. The Russians are like pure gun build, and it can be quite a hard play style to play almost. Sometimes it can go horribly wrong very quickly, and they are officially the poorest performing destroyers in the game. I'm not quite sure what they could do to save the Russian destroyers. I mean, the slow turret traverse speed seems to be a trait, the poor detectability seems to be a trait, the poor torpedo range seems to be a trait, a poor rudder shift seems to be a trait, so there doesn't really seem to be much going on. The only thing they would potentially do would be to either give them an additional consumable, something maybe along the lines of a heal, or a main battery relay booster, could be an interesting choice. Or they could improve the rate of fire overall, that would be intriguing, but it's quite strange to think they've made them gunboats and they're not amazing HP wise either, so maybe giving them a bit more HP could be an intriguing one. Obviously that puts them along the same lines as giving them a repair party, but what I'm trying to think here is, how could you improve their overall utility in the game? Well, it's not going to be torpedoes, so how to make them a more effective gunboat without changing the traits too much. And I think a little bit more HP, a little bit more survivability to be able to survive those engagements would be helpful, whether that's in the form of a minor repair party, very similar to what we have in USS Kidd, or whether that could be just a little bit more HP, somewhere in the region of about maybe 2,000, 3,000. It's one of the reasons why Sims could be quite a good inspiration, because that does give you HP, or you could try and tailor your command build around the idea of gunfighting, I guess you could say. Maybe Violetti could be an interesting choice, allowing you to drop off detectability quicker. That could be quite intriguing. The other one would be maybe to go all out stealth. I mean, they do have the Halloween commander Splendento, I believe, which does have go all out when you have your engine boost turned on. I think that can reduce your detectability by 20%. And potentially you could take Bay and Trubetskoy and go for a real concealed build, and maybe focus on torpedo rushes. That could be an interesting one, and one I might be trying out myself very soon. Well, here we are at the end screen, and Brandon's been able to do 109,000 damage from 104 hits on target, along with 6 torpedo hits, causing 3 fires and 5 floodings. Also got 7 citadels, killed 3 targets, got a capture and assisted capture, getting 2 devastating strikes and high caliber. Going on to the end screen, and you can see that Brandon's come top of his team with about 1,000 ship XP more than the next best player on his team, obviously with 3 kills and getting 2,738,000 ship XP. As you can see, there's lots of noob badges, I guess you could say, the standard black backgrounds and the standard patch. So obviously very much a seal clubbing game, I guess you could say. But it was interesting to just almost discuss the Russian destroyers, and also to watch probably one of the strongest of the Russian destroyers, because things kind of go downhill from here until you get the fully upgraded tier 7. Going on to the economy screen, and he's been able to walk away with 236,000 credits with a premium count. Obviously that is after a ship service cost of 17,000 credits, and he's been able to make a nice tidy bonus across the board in regards to Commander XP, Global XP, and Ship XP, I guess you could say, because obviously there's additional benefits to Ship XP which aren't recorded in the end screen but do end up going towards the ship, and that can all be converted into Global XP at the cost of doubloons. Well, if you have enjoyed this submission from Brandon, feel free to give it a thumbs up. If you enjoy this kind of content, feel free to subscribe. I'd like to say thank you to all the subscribers and all the patrons. If you have any of your own game captures, then you can send them in. Our email address is down in the description. Down in the description also is the link to Patreon if you want to support the channel on Patreon, as it is a non-monetized channel. Also, the modules and the commander build that Brandon used during this gameplay. I'd like to say thank you to Brandon and thank you to everyone. Until next time, I'm the Gallop Major, and back to the ball.
Hey, hey, clear the way, here comes the galloping major. Bumpity, 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 bump. Get out of the way there, you